Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for this lunchtime news broadcast, where we catch up on the news making headlines across Namibia and expanding to the rest of the continent and the globe. In the news today, Rundu Rural Constituency councilor reflects on his tenure thus far. A climate justice activist talked to us about the climate crisis. Former Egyptian MP sentenced to 10 years in prison. And at least 31 Palestinians injured in clashes with Israeli police. We also take a look at the news headlining today's daily newspapers, bring you sports and economic news, and more international headlines. I am Glenora Shipura, and this is NMH at 1. In today's midday news update, the Food and Agriculture Organization is boosting Namibia's locust surveillance and monitoring to avert a possible disaster under the Agriculture Ministry in its monitoring and surveillance activities to boost locust control efforts on the ground. Now, through a project called African Migratory Locust Response to mitigate impacts on food security and livelihoods, it is servicing 22 vehicles carrying out monitoring and control efforts. This support enables personnel on the ground to survey large tracts of land infested by locusts and to carry out locust control interventions. We bring you more news in our visual news segment. Do stick around with us. We now bring you visual news from across the regions. In our first video, Rundu Rural Constituency councilor Paulus Mbangu says since he occupied public office in November 2020, he has managed to implement some of the promises he made to the electorate, more specifically the provision of potable water. Kenya Kambowe caught up with him. Let's have a look.
Basically, during our campaign, we were very much clear, and one of our motto was unity, progress, as well as development. The issue that we picked up during our campaign is that people have no access to clean water, most of them in the constituency, especially those ones living alongside the river. And then there was also issue of poor road infrastructures, issues of electricity, poverty, and so on. But ever since we took office, because I've been in office now about in a year and 5 months, I think the next month it will be the sixth month. We have tried a lot. We have drilled boreholes. We have drilled borehole at Makandina. We have drilled and installed borehole at Makandina, Kawe, Mbora, Kumezao, Mazana, and recently this week we've installed another borehole again at Manangombe along the gravel road. And we have drilled again an additional 3 boreholes at Wazanga, Uvunguvungu, Mtengo Mkuru, as well as Shimpanda. We're just waiting for the lab results so that we can also install it. Hopefully, I think we might install it next month. And then we have also tried also to help our community with water pipeline, especially at Kuma. At Kuma, there's a borehole already, but then people are also working long distance. So what we did with the VTC, we have also tried to put water pipeline. And in Kuma now, if you go in Kuma today, there are different types of borehole, trying to shorten the distance for the communities. We have also put water pipeline at Kaparara village, deep in the inlet, so that at least people don't walk a long distance again to go to the water point. And we'll be doing the same. We are having the same project in Ngangana. We're going to do the same at Ngangana. And at the moment now, as I'm talking to you today, Namu Water, they are busy also putting water pipeline. Actually, we are starting with the Kayengona River scheme, because at this village at Kayengona, there's Maria Mungere Secondary School. The water that they're using in the secondary school is too salt, and the government spent millions of dollars for maintenance to replace those pipes at the school. So we came up with the river scheme project. We had an engagement with the board of directors of Namu Water, the CEO of Namu Water, but now they've already started. They've already started putting water pipeline.
A Namibian climate justice activist who joined Greenpeace at the COP26 last year speaks to Yana Marie Smith about the climate crisis ahead of Earth Day, which is today. Let's have a look.
Friday is Earth Day. Can you talk a bit about what you think are the biggest challenges we face?
The mitigation process is no longer enough to stop the climate crisis, which means mitigation is basically like fixing the underlying issues. You can either fix that by, a country going fully solar or using going fully sustainable. Since mitigation is no longer accessible to everybody, or it's no longer enough to fight the climate crisis, adaptation, which is our other choice as well, is difficult because of certain limitations, being it finance or being it people have to lose their homes because the place is no longer inhabitable. The only options that we have, there are no longer enough options, and we are running out of space in our own planet, and we are running out of options.
Are we also running out of time?
I feel like we are running out of time. We really do not have enough time. We actually do not have time at all, because there are people that are currently living the worst of the climate crisis right now. We saw what happened in South Africa, the mudslides and that whole thing that happened. A lot of people died there. And that is something that is not far from Namibia. And a lot of people will not realize that that is the impacts of the climate crisis.
In Namibia, what are some of the biggest issues that you are seeing?
Drought and water scarcity. And that also comes down to oil companies coming into like the country and promising, citizens all these jobs. People think that every opportunity that comes or everything that comes is an opportunity, which is not. Some people are just here to benefit from it, because countries like bigger companies that come into smaller countries to come drill for oil, they usually drill for oil, and the country only gets a certain percentage, which is not even enough for development in Namibia. So I feel like one of the issues that we have to acknowledge in Namibia is that even though we are a small country that is struggling, we should be able to struggle sustainably and not allow people to come take advantage of the smaller resources that we have.
What can I do to help, if anything?
Talking openly about climate change, make it an open thing, make it a known thing that climate change is happening. People are going through impacts of climate change. You are losing cattle, you are losing this, but people do not understand what is causing it. So the more openly you talk about, the more people understand, and the better people are able to to adapt, because when you know the problem, you are better able to adapt to the problem.
It is Friday, and that means check out what's happening on the entertainment front with Michael Kayunde's Weekend Gig Guide.
Hello NMH at 1 viewers, my name is Michael Kayunde. Here is a segment where we get to give you the events that are taking place during the weekend. To start with, there is the N Akun exhibition that is taking place at the project room. It actually started on Tuesday and it will go on until tomorrow, the 23rd of April, Saturday. Another event that is currently ongoing is the Duk Literally Festival that is taking place at the Goethe Institute in Windhoek. It also started on Tuesday and is also currently going until the 23rd of April, which is tomorrow. And lastly, you can catch the South African singers Vined and Cher performing at the Windhoek Afrikaans Private School in support of the Marua Children's Home. Tickets are $75 to $150. You can buy these tickets via web tickets. These are some of the events that are taking place right here in Windhoek. So in case you are wondering what's going on, you want to find something to do, these are the events you should be checking out. Until next time, it's bye-bye.
When we return, we'll be taking a sneak peek inside Namibia's daily print publications. But first, a quick ad break.
Choose your flex package with Paratus today. Sign up for ultra-fast fiber with the convenience of mobile LTE. That's 2 products in 1 bundle. It's new, it's 1 bill, and you can stay connected in more than 1 location.
For more information, visit paratus.africa/NA.
Always prepared. Paratus.
You're still watching NMH at 1. Let's delve into our local newspapers. The Namibian Sun reports that the aunt of a girl who is accusing 2 Namibian women of pimping her out for sex and a Pakistani national of raping her on several occasions in 2018 told Erongo Regional Magistrate Gaina Polton on Wednesday that her niece has willingly had sex with men for remuneration. On page 3 of the Namibian Sun, it is reported that independent lawyer Norman Shompe has rubbished statements by Landless People's Movement leader Bernardo Swartboy that only lawyers from the law firms with political connections to the ruling party are appointed as acting judges to the courts. Now, the Republican reports that commercial farmers are opposed to a proposed restriction on land ownership in Namibia by foreigners. Piet Gauss, a president of the Namibia Agricultural Union, informed members of parliament yesterday that such a policy would have a negative impact on foreign direct investment. Such a ban would, according to him, hamper agricultural development and agricultural projects planned by the government. The Republican also reports that the Defense Ministry Frans Kampofi motivated the budget for his ministry for the 2022 to 2023 financial year in front of Parliament on Tuesday. Now, the ministry responsible for the country's army receives about 37 million Namibian dollars less this year than last year. Kampofi specifically asked for 5.847 billion Namibian dollars. Now, the Allgemeine Zeitung reports that protected areas are also Namibia's most important tourist attractions and are considered as the key to the recovery of the tourism sector. Namibia has 86 registered communal conservancies and 43 community forests, which together cover almost 22% of the country's land mass. The Allgemeine Zeitung also reports that after attempts at mediation between Namibia Wildlife Resorts and the Sun Chorus Company were unsuccessful, the parties met before the High Court in Windhoek for a preliminary hearing. In the middle of the legal battle is the former NWR Managing Director, Zilna Hengari. Stick around for more newspaper review right after the break.
Choose your flex package with Paratus today. Sign up for ultra-fast fiber with the convenience of mobile LTE. That's 2 products in 1 bundle. It's new, it's 1 bill, and you can stay connected in more than 1 location.
For more information, visit paratus.africa/NA.
Always prepared. Paratus.
We continue delving into our local newspapers. The Namibian also reports about Namibia Agricultural Union President Pieter Gauss, who says the push by the affirmative repositioning movement to ban foreign land ownership is unconstitutional and has serious implications on foreign direct investment. The Namibian also reports that analysts have raised fears that plans by China to ease COVID-19 lockdown restrictions and the subsequent increase in oil consumption would further put pressure on prices locally and globally. In the New Era, it is reported that the unfolding leadership squabble at the Grootfontein municipality has been thrown into further turmoil, with opposition parties piling pressure on government to help restore order. In the New Era, it is reported that government has warned that non-exclusive bargaining agents against flooding workplaces, saying that doing so is illegal and could result in legal consequences if one side chooses to do so. According to MarketWatch, in case of a failure in any of the local banking institutions, as well as branches of foreign banks operating in Namibia, consumers' deposits are safe. Annual consumer price inflation rose to 5.9% in March from 5.7% in February. When we return, we share more on these and other economic news stories. But first, a quick ad break.
Choose your flex package with Paratus today. Sign up for ultra-fast fiber with the convenience of mobile LTE. That's 2 products in 1 bundle. It's new, it's 1 bill, and you can stay connected in more than 1 location.
For more information, visit paratus.africa/NA.
Always prepared. Paratus.
You're watching NMH at 1. We now take a look at our economic news. Now, annual consumer price inflation rose to 5.9% in March from 5.7% in February, driven in large part by fuel price hikes. The latest inflation number also remains within the South African Reserve Bank's 3% to 6% target range. Now, the monthly change in the index was 1.0% in March, up from 0.6% in February, Statistics SA reported. Now, transport prices increased by 14.3% year on year, with fuel prices up by more than 7% between February and March. Compared to a year ago, petrol prices were 33% more expensive and diesel 35% pricier. However, flood inflation softened in March, with the annual rate cooling from 6.4% to 6.2%. Bread and cereal prices continued to climb, increasing by a monthly rate of 1.1% in March, following a 2.4% spike in February. Meat, milk, eggs, and sugar-related products also increased. But after strong price hikes for 3 months in a row, prices for oils and fats dipped by 0.1%. Still, despite a 0.7% decline in the price of sunflower oil from February to March, it is 27% more expensive than a year ago, Statistics SA notes. Now, in case of a failure in any of the local banking institutions, as well as branches of foreign banks operating in Namibia, consumers' deposits are safe, as reported in the MarketWatch. Now, the Namibia Deposit Guarantee Authority, which has only been in existence for 2 years, recently released its annual report. Now, the report demonstrated a 3.8% year-on-year increase in the market value to 10.3 million Namibian dollars for the fiscal year ended 31 December 2021. The fund's value increased primarily due to $5.1 million Namibian dollars in premiums paid by member institutions and a total annual interest income of 278,496 Namibian dollars. Now, all Namibian banking institutions and branches of foreign banks and building societies are required to be members of the Deposit Guarantee Scheme and pay annual premiums to the scheme. Now, the scheme adopts a guarantee coverage limit of 25,000 Namibian dollars, which is currently in effect. At this coverage limit, the scheme covers more than 90% of current depositors. The failure of any deposit-taking institution can have far-reaching and devastating impact by the depositors, particularly small depositors. Before the introduction of deposit insurance schemes, when a deposit-taking institution goes under, it takes its customers' hard-earned savings with it. Depositors, particularly small depositors, are vulnerable to information asymmetries, unlikely to have knowledge and resources necessary to accurately assess the safety of their funds, he pointed out. Now let's take a look at our economic indicators. The Namibian dollar rose by 2.1% in value against the Chinese yuan, while dropping against these other major currencies. Namibian breweries are trading 0.01% lower on the NSX, while these other stock prices remain unchanged. Both local and overall index are down on the NSX. Brent crude oil is down 1.47% in value, while these other commodities have increased in value, with the exception of gold. Former member of parliament in Egypt has been sentenced to 10 years in prison. Stick around for the full story right after the break. Coming up in this lunch hour is news from Africa. In our first story, an Egyptian court sentenced a former member of parliament and others to 10 years in prison yesterday for smuggling antiques out of the country as part of a campaign to stop the trade. Egypt's state news agency said that former member of parliament Ala Hassanian and 4 others would serve 10 years. Hassan Rateb, a prominent businessman, and 17 others will face 5 years in prison. All were fined 1 million Egyptian pounds, equivalent to roughly $54,000 US. Now, Egypt has drastically stepped up efforts in recent years to stop the trafficking of its antiquities, which flourished in the turmoil following a 2011 uprising that toppled longtime autocratic leader Hosni Mubarak. Often the suspects have been high-profile figures. In 2020, an actor and brother of the country's former Minister of Finance, Raouf Boutros Ghali, was sentenced to 30 years for smuggling antiques. Now, in our next story, Tanzania Revenue Authority yesterday held talks with officials from U.S. social media giants Meta Platform Inc. as part of the government plans to introduce digital service tax targeting big technology companies. Now, Meta is the parent company to Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp services, which are popular in Tanzania with millions of users. A team of experts from Meta, a company that owns Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, today held talks with TRA on how to tax their services in the country, the taxman posted on Twitter. Now, TRA Director of Taxpayer Services and Education, Richard Kayombo, said the discussions were just preliminary on how the government can tax their services in Tanzania. Tech giants such as Amazon, Google, and Facebook make money locally, but they pay taxes abroad. African user countries no longer want to miss out on the revenue and are discussing digital taxes from tech giants, which make billions in profits. Now, the Minister for Finance and Planning, Dr. Mwigulu Nchembe, was quoted as saying that the impeding taxes to the foreign social media companies would not affect consumers in any way. Now, in our next story, we are in Rwanda. A Chinese national has been sentenced to 20 years in jail for torturing local mine workers in Rwanda after a video showing him whipping a man tied to a post went viral on social media. Sanshu Jun, the manager of a mine in the west of the country, was convicted on Tuesday, where he acknowledged assaulting two workers, saying he beat them because he was frustrated and fed up of them constantly stealing minerals. Sun argued for his release, saying he had compensated the two by paying a total of more than 1 million Rwandan francs and signing a reconciliation letter. The prosecution, however, argued that the victims accepted the payments because they were traumatized and afraid of him. Another manager at the company, Ali Group Holding Ltd, was found guilty of helping Sun and sentenced to 12 years in jail, but another defendant was found not guilty. Now, the Chinese embassy in Rwanda has pleaded for the rights of its citizens to be protected after a Chinese businessman was jailed for 20 years for torturing employees. However, the statement didn't sit well with some Rwandans on social media, who argued that China had no problem with the inhuman treatment seen in the video and found it morally upright to not stand up for the victims. Now, Palestinians clashed with Israeli police at Jerusalem Holy Site, 31 injured. The full story coming up after the break as we move over to international news. You're still watching NMH at 1. We now tackle our international news stories. In our first story, at least 31 Palestinians were injured in clashes with Israeli police at Al-Aqsa Mosque compound in Jerusalem. According to the Palestinian Red Crescent ambulance service, 14 Palestinians were taken to the hospital, 2 with serious injuries. Now, Israeli police said its forces intervened when hundreds of people began hurling rocks and fireworks entry close to the Western Wall, where Jewish worship was underway. Now, Reuters witnesses said police entered the compound after the morning prayers and fired rubber bullets and stun grenades at a crowd of about 200 Palestinians, some of whom were throwing rocks. Police also fired rubber bullets from a close range at a group of journalists documenting the clashes, the witnesses said. Now, violence at the compound, known to Jews as the Temple Mount and to Muslims as the Noble Sanctuary, has surged over the past week, raising concerns about a slight slide back into wider Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Now, moving on to our next story, where in Afghanistan, at least 16 people were killed by bomb blast in 2 Afghan cities on Thursday, including 12 at a Shiite mosque in Mazar-i-Sharif, claimed by the Islamic State group. Now, the number of bombings in Afghanistan has dwindled since the Taliban returned to power in August, but the jihadist and Sunni IS group has claimed several since then, often against Shiite targets. Now, blood and fear are everywhere. Ahmad Zia Zindani, spokesman for the Balkai Provincial Public Health Department, told AFP, adding people were screaming while seeking news of their relatives at the hospital. Now, he said 12 people were killed in the blast and 58 wounded, including 32 in serious conditions. In Kunduz, at least 4 people were killed and 18 wounded by a blast. Police spokesman Abu Dali Abeti told AFP was caused by a bicycle bomb targeting a vehicle carrying mechanics working for the Taliban. Now, the FIFA Normalization Committee that is currently in charge of the Namibia Football Association has dismissed Secretary General Franco Cosmos. We'll delve more into this story right after the break.
Have you received a loan from NSFAF? NSFAF loan is the same as any other loan. It must be paid and settled. NSFAF has a set of guidelines on how you can repay your loan and become debt-free. Therefore, it is important that you, a former beneficiary and a responsible Namibian, show your patriotism by helping pay back your loan and thus helping NSFAF become a revolving fund for the benefit of future potential students. By failing to pay back your NSFAF loan, you risk being blacklisted or having a court order against you. So arrange with the fund to pay back your loan today. For more information on how you can repay your loan, visit our website at www.nasfaf.na or visit our Facebook page or Twitter. Do the right thing and hashtag payback the money.
Thank you for staying with NMH at 1 during your lunch hour. We now take a look at our sports news. The FIFA Normalization Committee that is currently in charge of the Namibia Football Association has dismissed Secretary General Franco Cosmos, it said in a statement. FIFA recently described Cosmos, who himself was a member of a previous normalization committee, as divisive and a catalyst to current squabbles at Soccer House. Jack Getse will be acting in the position until further notice. Now, the Namibia School Sports Union Games are expected to attract over 1,200 athletes from all 14 regions as the battle for places in 2 elite teams that will be selected at the event, as well as bragging rights for their respective regions from 4 p.m. Namibia School Sports Union Coordinator Solly Dacre has given assurance to the athletes that everything is well and in place ahead of their big weekend. Now, the 2022 CAC MTB African Championship is taking place this Saturday, 23 April, at the IJG Trails in Kleine-Cooper. Now, the prestigious mountain biking event of the year in the cross-country Olympics discipline on the African continent will be hosted by the Namibian Cycling Federation with Nedbank Namibia as the official sponsor. The event will have cyclists compete in categories ranging from under 12 to elite men and women at the IJG Trials and Kleine-Cooper for top honors, and is expected to attract cyclists from over 10 African countries who will compete for the title of 2022 Africa Champions Continental Champion. Now, Dion Hotto and Peter Shalulile are in contention for Kickoff Player of the Year. More on these and other stories from the international sports scene after the break. Let's take a look at our international sports news. Dion Hotto and Peter Shalulile are in contention for Kickoff Player of the Season. Another exciting season in South African football is set to come to an end next month. After a campaign in which Mamelodi Sundowns have dominated, Royal AM emerged as a surprise package, and Cape Town City announced themselves as genuine top 4 competitors. A number of players across the division have announced themselves as the cream of the crop with their strong performance throughout the year, but only 8 could make it as finalists for the annual Kick-Off Footballer of the Season award. Now, Ukraine's Slovenia speaks about Russian and Belarusian players being banned from Wimbledon. Russian world number 8 Andrei Rublev said Wimbledon's ban on Russian and Belarusian players is complete discrimination and illogical. Rublev is one of the 3 top 10 players, along with fellow Russian Daniil Medvedev and Arnia Sabalenka of Belarus, who cannot play at SW19 this summer. Wimbledon made the decision to ban Russian and Belarusian players because of the invasion of Ukraine. In our next story, Manchester United have officially confirmed the appointment of their 8th manager since Sir Alex Ferguson retired. The Red Devils have announced that they have reached an agreement with Ajax Amsterdam's Erik ten Hag to become their new manager from the end of the season until June 2025, with the option of a further year. Now, the Dutch manager will take over the Old Trafford helm from Ralf Rangnick, who was brought in as an interim appointment following Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's departure in November 2021. Do stay with us for highlights right after the break.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, welcome to another exciting edition.
You're watching NMH at 1, and if you're just joining us, here are your highlights. The Food and Agriculture Organization is in the process of servicing 22 vehicles carrying out monitoring and control efforts to enable personnel on the ground to survey large tracts of locust-infested land and carry out control interventions. An Egyptian court sentenced a former member of parliament and others to 10 years in prison yesterday for smuggling antiquities out of the country as part of a campaign to stop the trade. When violence ensued, at least 31 Palestinians were injured in clashes with Israeli police at Al-Aqsa Mosque compound in Jerusalem. The FIFA Normalization Committee that is currently underway the FIFA Normalization Committee that is currently underway is in charge of the Namibia Football Association has dismissed Secretary General Franco Cosmos. It said in a statement, FIFA recently described Cosmos as a member of a previous normalization as divisive and a catalyst to current squabbles at Soccer House. Jackie Khetse will take over until further notice. And with that, we've come to the end of our show. Thank you for joining us here during our lunchtime break. Now, please do stay with us for our our regional review, right?
Good day, residents and all of our loyal viewers of NTV. My name is Tunole Mungoba and I am your host for today's Regional Review Recap episode. It is on this episode where we discuss what happened in the past week in different parts of the country, as well as have a little discussion about what transpired in all corners of the world. Stay tuned, do not leave your seat, and we will be right back to jump right into the news. Before we jump into our news segment, let us take a moment to commemorate World Earth Day. As the largest environmental movement and the most widely celebrated circular occasion, with over 1 billion people and more than 75 partners involved each year across 200 countries, World Earth Day has gone from strength to strength over the course of its history. It is definitely a day where we should take time to appreciate Mother Nature, all that we have appreciated, such as our fauna and our flora, as well as different parts of our beautiful, beautiful earth. Please watch this video, this short video that NMH has prepared before we get into the news segment. Take it away. Employees of B2 Gold Mine near Otjiwarongo held a peaceful protest against the new regulations of having to preserve 75% of their pension savings. According to the workers' representative, Jason Uiseb, they are totally against the proposed regulations as they are faced by redundancies and retrenchments anytime as mine workers. Here is Enzo Amwele with more, who brings us the story from Otjiwarongo.
Viewers, welcome back from our daily ad. First up in our news, employees of B2 Gold held a peaceful demonstration earlier this week to demonstrate against the 75% preservation of their pension money. According to the group spokesperson Jason Uiseb, he says they are totally against the regulations.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are just here to clarify why the people branch of the mine workers union have decided to engage in a peaceful demonstration against the proposed regulation that came about because of the passage of the FEMA Act 2 of 2021. We wanted to put it on the record that we are not against the same act. We are not against FEMA, because FEMA has got good things also in it, like workers being represented on the pension funds. Those are good things. So we are not against the act itself. But what we are against is the regulation. The regulation to say we should mandatorily preserve our funds. That's what we are against. Because you are saying that you want to keep 75% of my money, only give me 25%, and only give me the other one in installments, to say monthly payments, when I reach the age of 55. And us as workers in the mining industry, that is not tenable at all. It's not tenable at all. People are saying, oh, but then why are you guys, the NAMFISA is saying we are giving you 13 days extra. But let's look at the initial stage of the consultations. Our fund is Orion Pensions and Provident Fund. We found out that there were submissions made, but never is the fund engaged us as members to solicit our views and our opinions on the thing. Only when we wrote letters to see them, then we got the communication on the 11th of April. And it even starts with an African proverb of, if you eat an egg today, you forego a meal of chicken soup for tomorrow. Meaning that, in actual fact, you are diplomatically endorsing the preservation of my money. Because you are saying, egg is saying, if I get my money today to eat it, tomorrow I will suffer, I'll be a burden. This so-called burden that, in my opinion, is an insult to be called a burden to the state.
For our second story, we are going all the way to Keetmanshoop, where Monique Adams brings us a story where over the Easter weekend, the road safety campaign, in conjunction with the Locust Awareness Campaign, was officially launched by Honorable Governor Aletta Frederick, Deputy ED Midrad Kambinda, and Ministry of Agriculture, Water and Land Reform and Police Commissioner David Indongo at the Keetmanshoop B1 roadblock. Here's Monique Adams with more.
Over the Easter weekend, the road safety campaign in conjunction with the Locust Awareness Campaign was officially launched by Honourable Governor Aletta Frederick, Deputy ED Mildred Kambinda of the Ministry of Agriculture, and the Police Commissioner David Indongo. This clip was taken at the Keetmanshoop B1 roadblock.
For our last and third final story, we are going to head over to Ku, where a violent fight broke up between two females, namely Melinda Bota and Rufina Kisting. On Sunday, 10th April 2022, the police officers came to Bota's home.
Ongwediva is sunny, very hot and humid at the moment, with a sweltering 37 degrees forecast for Sunday and for the next week. Rundu is sunny and pleasant, with patchy clouds expected as from Sunday and for early next week. Uchivarongo is sunny and pleasant, with temps in the high 20s. Mariental is also sunny and pleasant, with somewhat cooler temps expected over the weekend. And finally, Karasburg is mostly sunny and pleasant at the moment, with temperatures expected to rise somewhat as from Monday.
Thank you so much, viewers, for tuning into another episode of Regional Review. My name is Tonole Mungoba, and as I said, we will be having another show on Monday where you'll be seeing this face again, where we'll be bringing you news from Northern Namibia. Thank you to all of our loyal viewers. Please share your feedback. Please share, comment, share, and watch all of our shows. From myself, Tonole Mungoba, the Regional Review team, and the rest of the Namibia Media Holdings team, it is goodbye, and I'll see you next week.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, welcome to another exciting edition.